to the Surviving Trauma Stories of Hope podcast. In this episode, I welcome Sam, the miracle man Shelley, to the podcast. Sam's story starts at the age of 6 when he was run over by a truck and the accident left him seriously injured. Sam would heal and recuperate in the years that followed, but the damage caused by his injuries would lead to more severe ailments. He eventually would be diagnosed with bipolar disorder, multiple sclerosis, psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, and migraines. In addition, his immune system was attacking his brain and his spinal cord. He was told he might never walk again. His health deteriorated, and some days he couldn't even speak to people without slurring his words. Plus, living with a mental illness for most of his life wasn't easy. It left him feeling like the walls were closing in, and he had nowhere to go. Sam lived in pain and suffering for nearly 40 years, and today he is free from medicine, doctors, and his cane. Sam's story is multifaceted and inspiring. He will share with us his journey of overcoming his illness, a near-death experience, mystical stories, ghost stories, and lots more. Sam now helps his clients in his practice to create miracles and clear head trash. Sam believes that if we clear head trash, we will live a healthy, happy life. He is also an author and has written 2 books. He posts on YouTube and has 2 live shows. Sam is fun and easy to talk to, and it was a pleasure to chat to him. Enjoy the episode, and a special thank you to my listeners for joining me on this journey. And comment on the posts on Instagram and Facebook, and let me know what you think of this episode. Stay tuned, and as always, keep listening. Hi, Sam. Welcome. I'm so glad we finally get to sit down and have this conversation. I mean, I love sharing my platform with interesting people like you. And I'm so thankful that you connected with me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Marlene. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and inspire some people that all is possible.
Yes, that is all that we are about on the show, huh? Inspiring lives. Sam, I know the work that you do and I know your background, but for the listeners, tell us a bit about yourself.
So basically, I grew up in Philadelphia and I was born in Philadelphia. Then currently I'm living in New York City. I'm not married at the moment. When I was in the Philadelphia area, I was married, but that ended after I healed myself. So we can get into that story a little bit, how that came to be. But I was working a corporate job for over 20 years in the IT space doing computer work. I was one of these big data guys dealing with all this terabytes of data. That's why I would just sit behind a computer and just deal with data all day, which was fine for me for a healthcare provider for a pharmaceutical company. And they were really understanding with all my health challenges and stuff and all my doctor's visits and those kind of things. So they were very supportive. But I'm just a normal guy that's just learned how to, not be set back by all my issues, all my traumas, and really have that post-traumatic growth.
That sounds awesome. I mean, you like tech buffin, so you are at the right place at the right time during this pandemic because we've just had this wave of technology. Everybody is now online and dealing with data and terabytes, and so you are perfectly placed. So
but that was a long time ago. I left my corporate job in 2014, so that was 7 years ago. I was in the corporate IT job. The technology that we're using today compared to 2014 is like dealing with antiques. Technology has changed so much over the last 7 years. I would be completely lost in today's computer world. I mean, I'm dealing with antiques. If somebody has a legacy system, I'm your guy, but somebody has new current stuff. Get it?
I haven't had that in a long time. Okay, point taken, Sam. So, Sam, you are known as the miracle man, right? But your journey started when you were 6 years old, when your life changed the way you knew it. Tell us about that traumatic experience.
Yeah, so what it was, it was the last day of first grade, because in the US we have grade school. So it was the first day of first grade. So kindergarten, first grade, so it was the last day of first grade. So it was the beginning of the summer break. So it was last day of school. I just heard this familiar sound of the ice cream truck that we have here in the Philadelphia area, here in the ice cream truck, begging the mom for money, running out and getting my ice cream. But after getting my ice cream, was crossing back to go to my house, and a van was speeding down the road. So I heard the noise coming. I briefly looked to my left, but I could not move. So the van ran over me because I really beat myself up over that. Well, I saw the van, well, I couldn't get out of the way. But I learned later in life, why we have these speed limits, at least in the US, 15 miles per hour, because kids don't learn the skill of avoidance to late teenagers. So even 15 miles per hour is fast for a kid that doesn't have avoidance skills. So this
Yeah.
van was speeding down, so there's nothing I could do. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. And next thing I remember, waking up in the hospital.
And so how long were you in the hospital?
The best way I can explain it, because that was at the end of first grade. I returned back to school in fourth grade. So I spent about a
Wow.
year in the hospital, and then another 6 months in rehab.
After this happened, what were the injuries? Because that's a really long time to be, out of it.
Yeah, so I had, obviously running Roy Van, I had the head trauma. I had a compound fracture of the left arm. I also had left elbow and a broken left hip. So I remember leaving the hospital in the body cast. I was in a body cast for a while. Um, but for a lot of those years, I simply don't remember. It's very foggy because of the head
Yes.
injury. I just remember certain things here and there.
And so when you returned from hospital, what was life like?
That was
Did the
completely different.
kids come and visit you from the neighborhood? Were they curious about how you were doing? What was life like?
Well, my parents said I always had visitors every day, but I really don't remember them too much. I just remember, one. It's funny today when I look back at it, but at the time I thought it was really unusual. One of my friends that came to visit was my next door neighbor, and he's like, "You made a mess the next day. You had to get the street cleaners here out. There was blood all over the place." Something like that, he said to me.
Yeah. Kids, they can be so silly. So you returned to school in fourth grade. So, I mean, you were at home and homeschooled since your accident. So, I mean, what does that do for you when it comes to your social skills? Were you excited to return back to school? And were your friends waiting for you? Or what was that experience like?
Yeah, I don't. I remember what I really remember going back is being more like petrified, anxious, petrified. That was my state of going back to that. So it just felt like really socially awkward. That's the best way I could describe it. Like I didn't know how to fit in. I lost all those skills. Just really awkward. Then I remember too, because after fourth grade in my home area, my parents decided to move after I recovered. So then what happened was, that first year back was awkward. Then I go back to the new school district and they said my skills weren't up to par. So I had to repeat fourth grade. So now I move, I have no friends there, nobody that I know whatsoever, and I have to repeat a grade. So it's very hard mentally.
So I know that during that time, you were also diagnosed with bipolar disease, right? And
Well,
did
that was in my 20s. I was diagnosed bipolar. So
okay.
in
Oh,
my
forgive me. I thought it was in your teens.
no, I was an undiagnosed bipolar in my teens. I just remember, being very socially awkward, really isolated, lots of depression. Just felt like going through high school was just very socially awkward.
Yeah. When we are adolescents, we don't really have the tools, that we do as adults to cope with these situations. So, what did you do to help you cope with where you were undiagnosed bipolar, recovering from your head trauma, and being socially awkward?
Yeah, I remember spending lots of time alone in my room. I was an only child, so I had no brothers, no sisters. So I just remember spending lots and lots of time in my room, because even when I was home from hospital rehab, I spent a lot of time just in my room still recovering. That was my prison, I guess. I was always in my bedroom, for that recovery. So I really didn't get out of the house much during that time. When I did go home, it was always, I'm recovering. And that's how I cope through. I remember like being in my room, like doing models, doing these little paint by number sets, and just, that was all before this internet and video games that we had today. I was just fine, like making models, paint by numbers, things like that. Any kind of isolating activities, Legos, making logs, and building things. That was my world.
Yeah. That kept you occupied and it kept you going. And
Right.
and I'm sure that that was built the foundation for the IT career that you had later in life.
Right, because the IT world, you have to be comfortable working alone and solo and just staying behind the computer all day. There's no interaction, just you and data. So that's all. So it was a perfect fit for me. That's what I fell into, and that's what I stayed with for a long time.
Right. Sam, so in your 20s, you were diagnosed with bipolar disease, right?
Yeah.
And you then lived with bipolar and you suffered from severe migraines. And I know that you had psoriasis and psoriasis arthritis. At what point did you learn how to heal yourself?
Well, yeah, I suffered with the bipolar, psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, migraines for a long time. So I was probably diagnosed, in, I don't know, around 1990, 92, somewhere in there, I was diagnosed bipolar. And then in 2004, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. That was after the worst migraine of my life. I just knew something was wrong. And a few days later, I couldn't walk. Right. Yeah. So I was in a teaching hospital in Philadelphia. So with multiple sclerosis, it's a process of elimination. There's not this one test that you can take and say, oh, you have this. So it's a process of exclusion. So over the 3 weeks I was in the hospital, couldn't walk, couldn't see, really couldn't do anything. They're just saying, okay, you don't have this, you don't have this, you don't have this. Then it's a process of elimination. They just concluded based on the results of these 3 tests that we concluded that you have MS. But
Okay.
the way it was given to me was another interesting story, because it was on a weekend. It was a visiting doctor that was seeing me. He just walked in one day doing his daily rounds. You're in the hospital, especially a teaching hospital. Well, this day it was only him, but usually it's 8 to 10 people coming in the room for me daily, trying to figure out what was going on with me. But this one doctor came in one day, like on a Sunday morning or something. He just came in, checked them. He's like, "Oh, we concluded you had MS." He said, "You'll be okay." And he just walked out. Right. So, but I mean, the way he delivered the MS news was very devastating to me. So it was no patient. So I lived with MS for 7 years roughly of that, you know, that state where I
Yeah.
couldn't really properly walk without a cane. Well, when I left the hospital, I left with a wheelchair and walker, then the quad cane, and using a cane. I have none of that today. So
So tell me about, I mean, this is so much for one person. What role did spirituality play for you if you're going through all of these things, the one
I,
thing after the other?
at that point, there was no spirituality in my life. It was always, I was in the corporate world. It was always very black and white to me. There was nothing out there. It's like I had to see it to believe it type mentality. So there was nothing else out there. It was just me alone trying to figure this out.
Yeah. So at the age of 42, was it 42?
Yeah.
At the age of 42, you had an epiphany that would change your life and would change the course of your life and set you on the trajectory that you are now. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah. So when I was at 42, I never had any concept of healing myself, because you're always told that bipolar, you have it forever. Multiple sclerosis, you have it forever. Psoriasis doesn't go away. The arthritis doesn't go away. You're going to have the migraines. You're going to be taking the 13 medications every day. You're going to be using your cane. You're going to be doing this and that. You're just always locked into these stories. So I never had any concept of healing myself. But so when I was dealing with the MS, because I deal with chronic fatigue and things that come with multiple sclerosis. So I was always tired. So I watched a lot of TV. I would watch anything and everything on TV because that was pretty much what I could do. After work, I just go home, watch TV for hours on end. So that was my life, work and TV. And so I used to watch a lot of ghost hunting shows, but I didn't know if it was real or fake. It was TV. So I figured, but it was entertaining, so I watched it. So anyway, so I saw a tweet from one of those ghost hunters on the show, like, "Hey, we're coming to Philadelphia. We're doing this event at Fort Mifflin." I was like, "Huh, maybe I can go to that." So got all my stuff together because traveling was always an adventure for me with the MS. I actually had a freezer in the trunk of my car for my cooling packs because my body was shut down at above 70. So I used to wear cooling packs so my body wouldn't shut down. So I decided, well, I could probably attend for about an hour, maybe a little over an hour. So I did my research a little bit on Fort Mifflin, look at some of the TV episodes filmed there and stuff. It looks like an area called the Casemates were the most active areas of Fort Mifflin. It's like, well, I'll only have an hour here. I'm going to put myself in the group that's going to go there first. I'm not going to pay attention to my group assignment. I'm just going to go to the Casemates. And that's where I'm going to go. So I went into the area of the Casemates. Well, to give you a little history, the Casemates were, the fort was used to defend Philadelphia during the Revolutionary War. And then they used that fort again during the Civil War, where they used to house prisoners, Civil War prisoners in the Casemates. So they used to use it as a prison there. So I got into the Casemates, and I just found an old bench, and I just sat there. And for about 15, 20 minutes, nothing was happening. It was kind of boring. Then somebody put out their flashlight, and somebody said, "Turn this flashlight on." And the flashlight went on, but nobody was touching the flashlight. They said, "Turn this flashlight off," and it would go off. So they were doing this for a few minutes, going on and off by command, this flashlight. But the skeptic in me said, "Hey, that's not my flashlight." So I put up my twist flashlight, and it was doing the same thing. It's like, there is something here. But then somebody sat next to me that I could not see. I just felt somebody sat next to me that I could not see or anything that was unusual. Then I just felt this overwhelming sense of dread. So after the Casemates, I went to a different area for just a few minutes. Something was happening, so I just left. So I was always curious. It was like, okay, what did I experience here? So I was just really curious. Okay, so the flashlight's going off by itself. Somebody sitting next to me, feeling the sense of dread. All right, so there's something here, but what? So I was like, okay, who talks to dead people? Mediums. So I found the book from a medium. So I started to read this book, but I had to read very slowly because my eyesight wasn't great. If I read too long, I would get a severe migraine. So I was very slowly reading this book. And then eventually she talked about, meditation and how meditation gets into a certain space for this. But then she just, over a page or two, she just described meditation, the benefits, but not really so much on how to do meditation. But when I was reading it, one of the benefits of meditation was inner peace. I'm like, I need inner peace. I'm so stressed out. I'm so overwhelmed with life. I need inner peace. So that night I began my meditation practice, or what I consider my meditation practice. I never had a teacher or anything. So I just sat there for 5 minutes. That was my practice. But I was in the impression though, that meditation meant you stop thinking. So just sitting there, I was just like, stop thinking, stop thinking, stop thinking. So I did that practice for 5 minutes a day of sitting there quietly, but telling myself to stop thinking when the mind would go off into its tangents. Then 2 weeks after my initial practice, I realized, wait, that's a thought chasing a thought. So I have these thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts, was my realization. To realize I have
Yes.
all these thoughts, these beliefs, these opinions, but I'm not that. So once I've realized that, okay, I'm not my thoughts. So then who am I? That's what I was sitting with then. But then I was no longer telling myself to stop thinking. I just realized when the mind went into the stories, the thoughts, it'd be like, I'll just bring myself back to where are my feet? Where are my hands? What am I touching? So I just story, come back to this, come back to the body, story, come back to the body. So I was doing that simple practice about 5 minutes twice a day. And by the third month, I was doing about 10 minutes twice a day of that practice of just bringing myself back into the present moment. And like I said, I never had a teacher, but this is what I was just doing, just follow my own intuition, I guess you could say, my own instincts on how to do this. So then one evening after my second sitting for the day, I just heard either a strong thought or a voice say perfect spirit. I'm like, that's it. That's who I am. I'm perfect spirit. You're perfect spirit. Everyone listening is perfect spirit. But we're so identified with our thoughts, the body, everything else, we forget that we are perfect spirit, the consciousness that's within all of us. So once I
Yes.
realized I was perfect spirit, then when I heard that voice, perfect spirit, I didn't call my psychiatrist up and say, hey, I'm hearing voices now. I didn't do that. I just simply knew at that point that's who I was. Then I just had a deep, deep knowing that all is well. And all sense of fear about my health was simply gone, just gone.
That is beautiful, Sam. And you know what I love about your story is that it's so different for each person. You know, if I think about when I came or had the realization of my own consciousness, of my own connection to source, and where I fit in this almighty cosmos, you know, it happened during my cancer journey.
Mm.
You know, and it's so beautiful when that happens, when we have those realizations for ourselves.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, once you realize, okay, I have this, but who am I really? The body has this, but who has this? The body has it. Spirit
Yeah.
isn't touched by this.
And also, I am not, I know for me, it was like, I am not my cancer. You know, I may have had cancer, but I am not my cancer, right?
Right.
Yes.
That's very good because I always would say, like, I'm bipolar, I have this. I would be completely identified with my labels, my ailments. But then I was able to let that go. And then once I knew without doubt that all sense of fear in my health was simply gone, and my mind got very quiet at that point, then I just started to follow this intuitive voice. And over 16 months, at the end of 16 months, there's no disease, no signs of MS, no signs of bipolar, no signs of anything, no medicine, no cane, no nothing.
You don't walk with a cane anymore. That is awesome.
No cane, no medicine, no doctors. I'm completely
Fantastic.
free. I know myself as perfect spirit.
So, Sam, you have taken this epiphany and this experience, and you are sharing that with the world. You are the founder of Hair Trash Anonymous, right?
Right.
So, tell us a bit about the work that you do there.
Well, we have to realize first what head trash is. Head trash is all that stuff that causes stress, anxiety, worry, all those beliefs that you're not good enough, not worthy. It's that inner dialogue that's constantly beating you up. Well, people always call it like the monkey mind, the inner chatter. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. When you think of like head trash, it's garbage. You can throw it out. You don't have to live
Yes.
with that roommate. You don't have to put up with that. You can say, oh, this is garbage. Let me throw this stuff out.
Yes.
So I just call it head trash anonymous. When I was thinking anonymous was the addiction because we're addicted to this head trash, thinking it's our truth and it's our way of being, like it's set in stone. And it's not. It can be thrown out, and everyone can do this with a very simple practice. But the mind loves complexity, and that complexity is also head trash. It comes in like 1,000 different flavors. This head trash. So that's why I really want to work with people that are really like sick and tired of being sick and tired and not know where to go. And even the term healing has head trash components to it. Because if you told sick me to go heal myself, I had all these stories what healing would entail. I had none of that. I just wanted peace. And through peace was the transformation. So I really tell people don't focus on healing. One of my rules to heal yourself is you don't focus on healing. You focus on peace. And peace is that energy of transformation. Because I'm sure you probably maybe discovered this too in your cancer journey. When you are at peace with yourself, the body sort of knows how to take care of itself.
Absolutely. And, you know, I was actually earlier this week, I was speaking to a physician and I was talking to her about my cancer journey. And one of the things that she said was patients that she sees, the ones who are in a really good headspace, they will heal much better than the one that's not in a good headspace, even though the one that has the good headspace may be worse off when it comes to the disease, but they will be the ones who flourish. And so there's definitely an element of headspace that contributes to healing ourselves, like for me, when I had cancer, my headspace was what got me through it, because I always went to all of my appointments, all my surgeries, all my treatments with a smile on my face.
Perfect.
I knew that I stood with the power of the spirit world. I stood with the power of God, and my cancer was not me.
Right. That's perfect because, yeah, you're one of those rare individuals that will say, I'm not my cancer. A lot of people identify with that. You did not identify that. So that was,
Yeah,
you knew, there's part of you knew that you were greater than your cancer.
absolutely. Look, for me, Sam, we had to navigate, my body for a while, but it came to a point when cancer had to go.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's why I say I don't have these diseases anymore because it doesn't serve a purpose anymore. There's no purpose for it to be there. I discovered who I am. And for some, and this is one of the interesting observations that I'm seeing with autoimmune diseases, that I've never seen anyone with an autoimmune disease that has an absolute love of themselves.
I
There's
can see
always an,
how that could be possible.
yeah, because there's always an element of everything I'm seeing with autoimmune diseases. I know that in my own case, I was always in that place of not good enough, not deserving, not worthy, always self-critical, beating myself up. So the body starts attacking itself. And some of this head trash is very subtle that you don't even realize you're judging and criticizing yourself. But that little bit of judgment is enough sometimes to get the body, creating an inner environment that's not supportive to a healthy body, but to a stressed, diseased body.
Yeah. So at Head Trash Anonymous, you create the awareness of what is head trash and how to rid yourself of it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, tell us about the healing sessions and the healing circles that you offer for clients.
Yeah, so I just call them the circles. I just call them the circles. I don't call them healing circles because once again, I think that word healing is charged. And if you're dealing with something that's charged, the body can't really go back into balance, into harmony if there's a charge, an emotional charge. It's like trying to do meditation to a motivational song. With a lot of lyrics and stuff, it's just going to charge the body too much. It's all about bringing everything into peace, and let everything come back to homeostasis and doing that. And just one thing I want to share that's reminded me of something that too, what your physician said. My physicians didn't have that insight that yours did, but one physician I did see at a conference in California, Dr. Gabor Mate, he questioned me for a while. Then he just stopped and looked and was like, "Oh, you stopped believing your mind." He's the only doctor that figured out that I stopped believing these stories. But that's why I really teach people with with the circles and head trash that I'm not here to heal you. I'm here to awaken your own inner healer by getting rid of the stuff that's preventing you from healing, because the body can heal itself. I mean, you get a paper cut, you don't have to worry about it. If you get a little paper cut, the body's going to take care of it. It's the same thing with everything else. You may need some help, some aid, some tools, the outside world, if you will, to help with
Yes.
the surgeries, the medicine. But I'm not
Yes.
against medicine. That I saw that I was on all this medication, but it gave me the stability to meditate. If I was still that undiagnosed bipolar running all over the place, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have the stability to sit still for 5 minutes. So
Yes.
that medicine gave me the stability. And once I had that stability and that knowing, like I didn't consult my doctors on cutting back this medicine. I just did it and trusted myself. I know that's not the right path for everyone. I just simply had this deep, deep knowing that all is well. But we just need to let go of all these stories and realize that we're greater than our thoughts, our beliefs, our opinions, and that we just be kind and gentle with ourselves and allow that kindness and gentleness to ripple out into the world.
That is absolutely beautiful. And, I can identify with that.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to join, Head Trash for a circle, how would we do that?
Well, yeah, my next circle is coming up in 2 weeks. I'm not sure if this is going to be released, but I'm probably doing circles every Saturday morning. Just make them very affordable because I know people really, because I know from being very sick, people don't necessarily have a lot of money if they're dealing with a lot of health ailments. So just make my circles $10. That's all, just $10. I'm really trying to just get hundreds of people to join these circles, to have that collective energy where we uplift and support each other. And I just guide people through a process back to their home, their spiritual home, not outside these stories. That one thing that most people say when they're done a session is the peace they feel, just the peace. You just get to the place that all is well. And it's just navigating through the mind and through the stories. Because we just have all these stories we just need to navigate through. And we just need to remember who we are. We get lost in our identity with all this noise, but we forget who we are at the core. That we are, consciousness, spirit, soul, whatever you wish to call that.
Yeah.
It's like even saying the Bible, we're made in the image and likeness of God. But what is that? It's not the body. We all have different bodies. It's the consciousness that's the same within all of us, that we're the one consciousness, the one spirit, the one great spirit.
Yes. And that's the source that we draw on.
Yeah. If you draw on that, then you're unstoppable. There's limitless possibilities here.
Yes.
When you're operating from the heart, there's infinite possibilities. When you operate from the mind, it's limited, one or two options. The mind's confused. It doesn't know where to go, but the soul simply knows, go do this, go do that.
It's intuitive when it comes to the soul, but you can have with your thoughts limiting beliefs in your life. Yeah. Sam, you have done so much. You are an author of the book called I Don't Dwell. You're a co-author of 2 more books, Break the Habit of Negative Thought Addiction and The Habit of Negative Thought Addiction, right? Can you give us a brief overview of your books and then where we can get it?
Okay, so for the first book was I Don't Dwell. I wrote that in 2013 after my healing, because people were always asking me, how'd you do this? How'd you do this? How'd you do this? So they were like asking me, to write a book. So I wrote the book, and I called it, I Don't Dwell, because I don't sit there and dwell in thoughts, thinking about, what could have been, guessing the future, dwelling in the past. So I just call it I Don't Dwell.
Yes.
So that book they can get for free in my Head Trash Anonymous global chapter on Facebook. They can just download it. They can join the group. It's free to join the group, and they just can download that first book. Because I actually had a traditional publisher for that first book. They went out of business, so I decided I don't want to sell that book. I just want to give that one away. So I give away the first book. And so the second book was, breaking the habit of negative thought addiction, that we're really, we're so addicted to this. How do we stop the patterns out of that? And the third idea that I have for a book that I'm sort of working on a little bit right now, but it's the 5-minute cure. It's just basically a 5-minute process. The mind wants all this complexity. It makes things very difficult, but it's really that first practice I did is just 5 minutes a day. There goes the mind thinking, where's my body? Where are my feet? Where's my hands? What do I hear? What am I touching? It's all, as Eckhart Tolle would say, it's the power of now, or even Ram Dass talking about that, the power of the present moment. It's all the power is right here. Anytime we're in the thoughts and the stories, we're in a disempowered state. So it's all come back to that center. And once you're back to center, you awaken your own healer, that everyone's awakened, but we simply forget. We allow the mind to pull off course, that there are new mistakes in the universe. It's constantly trying to get your attention. And that's what I was saying, but my multiple sclerosis doesn't need to be here anymore. My bipolar doesn't need to be here. I discovered who I was, so there's no purpose for it.
Yes, and you were not your disease.
Right. But I was so identified with my disease when I let go of that identity. And then I just simply knew it was all over that, one night. And of course, it took 16 months for the body to catch up to that knowing, to get off all the medicine, to, restore the balance. So I didn't need the cane. It took some practice, but it wasn't overly, and this wasn't necessarily easy, but it was very simple. The steps. Spirit gave you very simple steps, just to do this, do that. But it wasn't giving you the long-term plan. Spirit doesn't do that. It's like, here's the next step. Here's the next step. The mind doesn't like that. The mind wants everything planned out. And that's what the mind is funny. If the mind will plan something and visualize something, and when it doesn't come exactly that way, the mind gets stressed, anxious, worried, That's where it all stems from, all this noise, and it comes in thousands of flavors. So, so I even do daily videos today. That's what I'm really focusing on today, is just creating these daily videos on YouTube. Somebody told me to do TikToks, and now I do daily videos on TikTok as well, but they're usually 15-second clips or 30-second clips. So something very short that I just create, just to remind people that, you're not this craziness, and that you just, one of the things I really like to talk about people is when people say just snap out of it, let it go. If ever we could let it go that easily, there would be no issues in the world. We
That's
can't.
true. Yeah.
It's a practice. So when you say it's a practice of letting it go, you just can't snap your fingers and poof, it's all gone, or there'd be no depression, no anxiety, no worry in the world.
And I think, what is key is patience. Because I find that, as human beings, we want that instant gratification. We want it now.
Right. Yeah. Because we've been conditioned for this instant gratification. I think one of the biggest changes in society was the invention of the microwave oven. You can have a meal in a few
Yes.
minutes. I think that was one of the things that really caused a big, huge shift in society, that I don't have to wait 20 minutes or a half hour for a meal. I can have it in 2 or 3 minutes.
No, it's true. And the same goes for defrosting. I love the defrost button, but then my partner or my sister would say, no, why are you using the microwave? Just take it out like, earlier in the day. Plan
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah. But, we want to do it now.
And we're conditioned in society. The more technology we get, the more impatient we become, because we're expecting instant answers and gratification. And it's just a matter of 5 minutes a day. I mean, most people have a hard time even with 5 minutes. So I say, well, maybe you can do a minute or 2 minutes. And that still
Yes.
makes a difference, because you're still getting a little bit of head trash cleared. You're still putting those gaps into the thought stream. So I really think it really stemmed with the microwave oven, really caused a societal shift into instant gratification.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Oh, I guess you can even say even TV did that in a little bit too. You didn't need to go to a movie theater. You didn't need to go out to be entertained or listen to the radio. There's different things that technology has done, over time
Yes.
that,
And I mean,
but
we can have TV on demand. We don't need to wait.
right.
We can just watch 7 seasons, one go.
Yep. It's instant gratification society. And unfortunately, that doesn't help the body, heal, or it doesn't help with a lot of things if you're trying to build a career, trying to learn something. And it really hurts with learning, because you're expecting to learn something right away. And sometimes that skill has to be developed and nurtured over time. So we get into all these various aspects.
Well, I can tell you that, I mean, you have opened my eyes here to a different way of thinking. And, more people should be taking out that time in their daily lives to just have that break, quiet their mind, tap into that centered space, tap into that peace. Because, I mean, it's been proven that there's a direct connection between your health and the stress that you have in your life. Stress causes disease.
Yeah.
And if we can limit the anxiety and the stress and the busyness of our minds that we experience, then it makes for a lot healthier communities.
Yeah, because that's what they say, at least in the US, stress is the silent killer. I think they attribute it like 80% of illnesses to stress. And if you can get rid of that stress just by clearing a little bit of the head trash, then the body's going to be healthier. You're going to live longer. You're just going to enjoy life more. You're not going to be stressed out. The whole thing is about enjoying life. We're here to enjoy life, to celebrate life, not get bogged down in the heaviness of life. Because the mind's always telling stories that this shouldn't be, this should not be, this, why is this way, and all these kind of head trash stories. And people just forget who they are. But it's just simply, and even people that say, I'm too busy, I just can't simply sit, then do a mindfulness practice. Realize when you're going through the world, you can either be lost in your thoughts or notice where your feet are, where you're standing. Or, I was taking a friend to a doctor in Philadelphia. She was starting to get into a panic attack. So I had her grab the metal pole in the subway. I had her, focus on where her feet are, the chair, and the panic attack went away in like seconds once she got herself back here into this moment.
In the present.
In
Yeah.
the present. It's just because the mind's future guessing, oh, this is the doctor, what's going to happen there? Don't worry about that. Just be here and it'll take care of itself.
Yeah. That's great advice. So tell me, if people want to reach out and want to know more about the work that you do or want to join the circles, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me at headtrashanonymous.org. They can find me on, Facebook at Head Trash Anonymous. They can find me on YouTube as Sam the Miracle Man. They can find me on TikTok as Sam the Miracle Man, Instagram the Miracle Man, Sam the Miracle Man. So I'm sort of all over the place. I'm easy to reach. And I do list my events on my website. And I always really urge, people just join the Head Trash Anonymous group on Facebook for free, and they just get the first copy of my book and just read that, and maybe it will inspire them to take some actions. And just these small little actions. That's what my whole thing is, that I never had a spiritual teacher. I simply realized I was too stressed out, too overwhelmed with life. But there's something that can bring inner peace, meditation. But when I did meditation was like, there goes the mind thinking, where am I? There goes the mind thinking, where am I? But not judging, not criticizing myself or being lost in thoughts. Just noticing like, oh, the mind grabbed me. Okay, let me come back to here. That's my practice now, is like, I just notice when the mind grabs and just like, okay, I'm here now. Because that's life. You're not going to be 100% free of head trash, because if you're alive, the mind's thinking. The mind's always generating thoughts. So we can't shut off thoughts completely. It doesn't happen. But you just realize you're not your thoughts. You're greater than your thoughts.
Sam, thank you so much. Thank you for educating us. I absolutely love it. I'm going to definitely get myself a TikTok account, because I have to come and find your daily inspiration on TikTok.
Yeah, but the thing is, I just love these little 15-second, maybe 20-second videos. Remind you that's all very simple.
Well, when you release your next book, you're going to have to come back to the podcast and tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure when I'm going to release that. It's not the biggest priority for me right now. I think it's more important for me to do the circles, trying to get more people in a collective experience. So that's what I tell people is, you can read about this all you want, or watch all the videos you want, but until you actually have the actual direct experience of what that peace feels like. And once you have that experience of peace, it sort of becomes your anchor. So when you're lost up in your thoughts, it's like, oh, let me go back to the place of peace. It's now a familiar place, because once that door is open to peace, once we reopen that door to peace, I should say, we had it when we were born, but then the mind starts getting busy and we start adding the head trash. So we forget that I am peace, I am spirit, I am soul. But we build these stories up through the head trash and we forget that. So the real goal is just help people remember who they are, that you are a perfect spirit. Just as you sit here right now, the spirit's not judging you. It's not condemning you. It's accepting you unconditionally. It's just saying, go do this, go do that, if you want to improve your situation.
Beautiful. Sam, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure chatting to you. Always so wonderful to see you. And yeah, all the best with the upcoming book. Make sure that you contact me and let's have another chat.
We'll be in touch. Yeah, you're not just going to join TikTok. You're going to create your inspirational videos as well. You have an important message as well to share, that cancer doesn't have to define you. So I think that's your mission.
Absolutely. No, my cancer definitely does not define me. And I actually, when I was speaking at the support groups, sort of pre-COVID, that was part of the message. In the groups, it's various different types of cancers, diagnosis, stages in diagnosis, treatments, and then also the family members that come with for support. Mm-hmm. And I found that even though it was a talk about cancer, the family members that attended, they could also take something out of it, inspiration, motivation for themselves in their lives. Yeah, because your circumstances, they don't define you.
Right. Yeah. It's your body, and it can go away. The body doesn't be attached with it either. It can be freed of those stories that are keeping it in place. But I think it's important, you need to get your cancer story out there and let people that you're not your cancer. You are greater than that. And that smile that you bring in your wisdom it just needs more voices out there, more hope that you can survive this trauma, you can thrive from this trauma. That there is, U.S. military has been looking heavily at, PTSD versus post-traumatic growth. That how some portions of the military personnel actually grow and excel after experiencing their trauma. So I know the U.S. military is really actively studying that. Like, what's that one thing that makes this a growth experience as opposed to something that's relived, the pain relived over and over again? That, there's hope out there for people, that we're all human. We all have these abilities because we're ultimately spirit.
That wraps up this podcast episode. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy my podcast, please take a minute to give me a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast directory so you don't miss an episode. Please consider following My Centered Life on Facebook and Instagram for daily inspiration. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. You can catch me again in the next episode. Same time, same place. Sending you lots of love and light. Bye.